Hey, take a moment, look up at the sky tonight. You'll see it. Silent, still, always there. The moon. For thousands of years, humans have looked at it and wondered what it really is. Not just a bright circle in the night sky, but something more, something unknown. Because the truth is, the moon is full of mysteries. And the more we study it, the more questions we find. Let's start with something real, something that actually happened. When astronauts first walked on the moon, they expected something simple: dust, soft dust, like sand, like the deserts on Earth. Something familiar, something normal. But what they found was completely different. The surface of the moon was covered in dust, yes, but not the kind they expected. This dust was sharp, extremely sharp. Tiny particles and with jagged edges like broken glass. Imagine touching something so small, yet so sharp, that it can scratch metal. That's what they were dealing with. And it didn't just stay on the ground, it stuck to everything. Their boots, their suits, their gloves, their equipment, even inside the spacecraft. No matter how much they tried, they couldn't remove it. It followed them everywhere. And that's when things became even stranger. When they returned inside and removed their helmets, they noticed something unexpected, a smell, a very specific smell. Not like dirt, not like dust, not like anything from Earth, but something else, something familiar, yet completely out of place, the smell of burned gunpowder. Think about that for a moment. Dust on a lifeless world with no fire, no oxygen, no combustion, smelling like something that is burned. How is that possible? Scientists have tried to explain it. Some say it's caused by chemical reactions. Others believe it's the result of solar radiation interacting with the surface. But even today, there is no complete answer. No explanation that fully satisfies the mystery. And that's just the beginning. Because the moon doesn't behave like a normal world. It looks simple, it looks quiet. But when you look closer, you start to notice things that don't quite make sense. For example, have you ever noticed how perfectly the moon fits in the sky during a solar eclipse? From Earth, the moon and the sun appear almost exactly the same size. Not close, not similar, but almost identical, which allows the moon to perfectly cover the sun, creating one of the most incredible sights in nature, a total eclipse. But here's the strange part. This kind of perfect alignment is extremely rare, almost impossible. The size, the distance, the positioning, everything has to be exact. And yet, that's exactly what we see every time. Coincidence? Maybe. But some people believe it's too perfect, too precise, almost designed. Now let's go even deeper. The moon shouldn't exist the way it does. Most moons in the solar system are either captured objects, asteroids trapped by gravity, or formed naturally from debris. But Earth's moon is different. Its size is unusually large compared to our planet. Its orbit is incredibly stable. Its composition doesn't fully match what we would expect. Everything about it is slightly off, slightly unusual. Scientists believe it was formed billions of years ago after a massive collision between Earth and another planetary body. A violent impact that sent debris into space, which later formed the moon. This is known as the giant impact theory, and it explains many things, but not everything. There are still gaps, still inconsistencies, still questions that don't have answers. And that's what makes the moon so fascinating. The more we learn, the more mysterious it becomes. Now imagine this. You are standing on the moon, alone, No atmosphere, no wind, no sound, nothing, just silence. Not the kind of silence you experience on Earth. Not quiet, but total silence. Absolute silence. A silence so deep, it almost feels unnatural. You take a step, and there is no sound. You move your hand, nothing. No echo, no air, just emptiness. And in that moment, you realize something. You are completely alone, floating on a lifeless world, millions of kilometers away from home. You look up, and instead of the moon, you see Earth hanging in the sky, bright, blue, beautiful, alive, but far away, very far away, too far to reach, too far to help. Would you feel safe? Or would you feel something else, something deeper, something harder to explain? Because many astronauts describe the moon as unsettling, not scary, not dangerous, but wrong, like something isn't quite right. And then there are the lights, strange flashes seen on the surface of the moon, lights that appear for a moment and then disappear. Scientists call them transient lunar phenomena. They've been observed for decades, through telescopes, through cameras, even by astronauts. Flashes, glows, brief movements, but no clear explanation. Some say it's gas escaping from beneath the surface. Others believe it's small meteor impacts. But not all sightings fit those explanations. Some lights seem to move, to change, to behave in ways that don't match natural events. And that's where the mystery begins. Because when something doesn't behave normally, we start asking questions. And when those questions have no answers, they become mysteries. And the moon is full of them. And this is only the beginning. Now let's go deeper. There is a side of the moon you never see. Not because it's always dark, but because it always faces away from Earth, hidden, silent, unknown. For all of human history, no one had ever seen it. No human eyes, no telescopes, nothing. Just imagination, stories, and mystery. People called it the dark side of the moon, a place untouched, unseen, almost forbidden. And for centuries, it remained that way, until technology changed everything. Space missions orbited the moon and finally revealed what was hidden. Images came back. Data came back. And for the first time, we saw the other side. But what we saw raised even more questions, because the far side of the moon is completely different. More craters, more damage, more scars. Almost like it had taken the full force of something violent, something repeated over millions of years. Why is one side so smooth and the other so broken? Why is the near side so different from the far side? Scientists have theories. They say it could be because of how the moon formed or how heat was distributed deep inside its surface. But again, there is no perfect answer. Only possibilities, only guesses. And that's where things become interesting. Because when science doesn't have full answers, people start creating their own. Some believe there is something hidden on the far side of the moon, something we haven't fully discovered, something we don't fully understand. Of course, there is no solid proof of that, but the mystery remains. And then there are the sounds, or at least what some astronauts described as sounds. During early missions, astronauts reported hearing strange signals, buzzing, whistling, almost like music. Imagine that for a moment. You are in space. There is no air, no sound, no way for noise to travel. And yet, you hear something real enough to notice, to remember, to talk about later. Some described it as eerie, uncomfortable, not loud, but present, always there, in the background. Scientists later explained it as radio interference, signals interacting with equipment, creating strange audio effects. That explanation makes sense, but still, the idea remains unsettling because space should be silent. And yet, something was heard. And then, there are the shadows. On Earth, shadows are soft. They fade, they blend, but on the moon, shadows are different. They are sharp, dark, absolute. There is no atmosphere to scatter light. So shadows become deeper, darker, more defined. And that creates something strange. Illusions. Objects can appear closer or farther than they really are. Distances become hard to judge. Shapes can look distorted. And for astronauts, this created a strange visual experience. The surface of the moon didn't always look real. It looked flat, almost like a photograph, like a set, like something artificial. Of course, it wasn't, but the feeling was there, and in a place so quiet and so empty, so isolated, even small things can feel significant. Now imagine this again. You are standing on the moon, looking out into the distance. Endless gray terrain, craters, stretching as far as you can see. No movement, no life, no sound, just stillness. And in that stillness, your mind starts to wander. You begin to notice things. Patterns, shadows, shapes. Some look natural, others don't. And that's where the imagination begins. Because the human mind is built to find meaning, to recognize patterns, even when they don't exist. And on the moon, that effect becomes stronger, stranger, more intense. Some people believe that certain shapes on the moon look too perfect, too structured, too artificial. But scientists explain this as a natural effect. Random formations that just appear meaningful. A trick of the eye, a coincidence. Still, the feeling remains that something about the moon is different. Not just physically, but psychologically. It affects how we see, how we think, how we feel. And that's what makes it so fascinating. Because the moon is not just a place, it's an experience, a silent, mysterious, unexplained experience. And we've only just begun to understand it. Now, we move into the most controversial part, the theories. Not all of them are accepted. Not all of them are proven, but they exist. Because of one reason. The moon doesn't behave exactly the way we expect. And when something doesn't make sense, people start asking deeper questions, and sometimes those questions lead to strange ideas, very strange ideas. One of the most famous is known as the hollow moon theory. The idea that the moon might not be completely solid. That inside, it could be empty, or at least very different from what we imagine. Now this sounds impossible, like science fiction. But the reason this theory exists comes from something real, something that actually happened. During early space missions, scientists performed experiments on the moon. They intentionally crashed objects into its surface, modules, equipment, heavy pieces of metal, and then they measured the vibrations, the way the moon reacted. What they found was unexpected. The moon didn't just absorb the impact, it vibrated for a long time, much longer than expected. Some scientists described it like a bell. When you hit a bell, it doesn't just stop, it rings, it echoes, it continues. And in those experiments, the moon seemed to behave in a similar way. Now, and this does not prove the moon is hollow. There are scientific explanations. The structure of the moon, the way energy travels through it, can explain these vibrations, but still, the comparison remained. A bell, ringing in space. And for many people, that idea was enough to create a theory. Because when something feels unusual, it becomes a mystery. And when a mystery is not fully explained, it becomes a story. Another theory suggests that the moon might have an artificial origin, that it wasn't formed naturally, but placed there. Now again, and there is no solid evidence for this, but the idea exists because of how perfectly the moon behaves. Its orbit is extremely stable. Its rotation on is perfectly synchronized with Earth. We always see the same side, always, exactly the same. No variation, no shift, just one face, looking back at us. Some people find that strange, too perfect, too consistent, but scientists explain it as tidal locking, a natural process caused by gravitational interaction. And yet, even with explanations, the feeling remains that the moon is different. Now let's talk about something else, something real, but still not fully understood. Strange observations. Over the years, astronomers have reported unusual activity on the moon, brief flashes of light, moving shadows, glowing areas. These events are rare, unpredictable, and difficult to study because they happen and then disappear. Some are recorded, most are not. Some last seconds, others just a fraction of a moment. Scientists have tried to explain them: gas escaping from beneath the surface, electrostatic charges, tiny impacts from space debris, all possible, all logical. But not every observation fits. Some reports describe movement, not just flashes, but shifting light, changing patterns. And that's where things become uncertain. Because when something moves, we start to ask, what caused it? Now imagine again, standing on the moon, looking across the surface, and suddenly, in the distance, you see a brief flash, a light, gone in a second. Would you ignore it, or would you wonder what it was? Because on the moon, every small event feels bigger, more important, more mysterious. And then there's the human factor, the way our minds react to isolation, to silence, to emptiness. The moon is one of the most extreme environments a human can experience. No atmosphere, no sound, no life, no movement, just stillness. And in that stillness, the mind begins to change. Time feels different, distance feels different, even reality can feel different. Astronauts have trained for this, prepared for it, but still, the experience is unique and sometimes difficult to describe. Because the moon is not just a place, it's a psychological experience, a world that challenges not only the body but the mind. And that's what makes it so powerful, so mysterious, so unforgettable. Because even when we explain the science, there is still something left. Something we can't fully describe. Something we can't fully understand. And maybe that's what the moon really is. Not just a physical object, but a mystery, a question that we are still trying to answer. So, after everything we've explored, one question remains. What is the moon really? Is it just a natural satellite, a piece of rock, floating silently in space? Or is it something more? Something we don't fully understand yet? Because even today, after decades of research, after missions, after technology, the moon still holds secrets, and maybe that's what makes it so fascinating. The more we learn, the more we realize how much we don't know. Think about it. We have explored planets. We have sent probes beyond our solar system. We have looked deep into the universe, and yet the object closest to us still feels mysterious, still feels unknown, still feels unanswered. The moon is always there, every night, watching, silent, unchanging, or at least that's what it looks like. But behind that calm surface, there is history, violence, impacts, changes that happened over billions of years. A story written in craters, in dust, in silence, and we've only read a small part of that story. Now imagine the future, humans returning to the moon, not for a short mission, but to stay, to build, to explore deeper. Lunar bases, habitats, permanent presence, living on another world. It sounds incredible, but it also brings new challenges: the dust, the radiation, the isolation, the psychological pressure. Because living on the moon is not just about technology, it's about survival and adaptation and understanding a world that is completely different from Earth. A world with no air, no life, no protection, and yet we are drawn to it again and again. Why? Because humans are curious. We always want to know more, to go further, to explore the unknown, even when it's dangerous, even when it's uncertain. And the moon represents that perfectly. It is close, but still out of reach. Familiar, but still mysterious. Simple, but still complex. And maybe that's why it fascinates us so much, because it reflects something deeper. Not just about space, but about us. Our curiosity, our fear, our need to understand, our desire to explore. The moon is not just an object in the sky, it's a symbol, a reminder that there is always more to discover, always more to learn, always more to question, and maybe in some mysteries are not meant to be solved completely. Maybe they exist to inspire us, to push us forward, to make us wonder. So the next time you look up at the moon, don't just see it as a bright light in the sky. See it as a mystery, a question, something waiting to be understood. Or maybe something that will always remain, just out of reach. And ask yourself, if one day we discover everything about the moon, every secret, every detail, every answer, will it still feel the same? Or will the mystery be gone? Because sometimes it's not the answers that matter most, but the questions, the wonder, the feeling that something is still out there waiting to be discovered, waiting to be understood, or maybe it's waiting for us to finally be ready. And until that day, the moon will remain what it has always been: silent, mysterious, watching from above. Pause, and maybe, just maybe, it's watching back. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to subscribe, because there are many more mysteries waiting to be explored. And maybe, just maybe, it's watching back. So the next time you look up at the moon, don't just see a light in the sky, see a mystery, something we still don't fully understand, something waiting. If you enjoy mysteries like this, there's more coming. Subscribe and stay curious.